it had been shut down. And I don't have too high hopes with this feed. Seems like when the feed is titled Epstein or we're talking about Epstein, I seem to get more interference than I normally would, which is saying a lot. But the previous video today, we were talking about Epstein, and now we are, so video yesterday, we talked about it, today we're talking about it. So now I'm reading the what is this? The legal issues, Epstein's legal issues. And so we got to, again, if you want to see the previous stuff, then just go watch the previous videos. But we're going to go with July 2006, the FBI began its own investigation of Epstein, nicknamed Operation Leap Year, which is interesting. It resulted in a 53-page indictment in June 2007. Alexander Acosta, then the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, agreed to a plea deal which Alan Dershowitz helped negotiate. Now, in order to get a plea deal, that means you have to give. They don't just give you plea deals because they like you or whatever. What's up, Matt? But Epstein didn't give anything. Epstein got the greatest plea deal ever, and none of the information that he supposedly gave had any value. Helped negotiate to grant immunity from all federal criminal charges to Epstein, along with the 4 named co-conspirators and any unnamed potential conspirators. How did that get negotiated? What sort of information could Epstein have given to not only protect himself, but 4 other people and anyone in the future that might be associated with this? They're already given immunity. I mean, it's just wild. It's like how Samantha Woll's boyfriend called the police and admitted that he killed her. He thinks he killed her. He doesn't remember doing it, but he thinks he did. Only for him to get immunity because apparently he took a double dose of the psych medication that he was already on and hit his weed pen 4 times. And that's what made him call the police and acknowledge that he killed his girlfriend. Wow, 2 cardinals. That's not something you see very often. That's interesting. I mean, this is one of those parts in this where it's like, I don't care what side you're on. I don't care what you think about me. You know, any of that bullshit. When you understand that Alan Dershowitz negotiated a deal to grant immunity from all federal criminal charges to Epstein, along with 4 named co-conspirators and any unnamed potential co-conspirators. Like that should trigger something in you. You should, you know, as a reasonable, intelligent human being, you should be like, hey, that doesn't make any sense. According to the Miami Herald, the non-prosecution agreement, quote, essentially shut down an ongoing FBI probe into whether there were more victims and other powerful people who took part in Epstein's sex crimes. And again, this isn't like I found some secret page that nobody knows about and I have access to some secret information. I'm using Wikipedia. And Wikipedia is...
Moetzet Yesh, in conjunction with My Israel, has arranged instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
Okay, so That's future president, future prime minister Naftali Bennett. At this point, he's a former prime minister. Obviously, Netanyahu is the prime minister, but he was the prime minister prior to Netanyahu, kinda. And he's acknowledging that Israel controls what we get from Wikipedia. So I'm not saying Wikipedia is 100% true. I'm saying Wikipedia is the narrative that they want us to have. That's why I use it. And this Wikipedia page, the Jeffrey Epstein Wikipedia page, is one that's completely locked. So anybody that tries to hide behind this idea that anybody can edit Wikipedia, they can't. Not only is that not true in general, it's 100% not true on this page because this page can't be edited. So we're solely getting the perspective that Israel wants us to have. And considering Epstein is a Mossad agent, like it should really wake you up. It should, it's connected. It's not like there's not an obvious connection here. It's not like there's something you have to stretch to connect. Epstein was absolutely a Mossad operative, a high-ranking Israeli Special Forces operative, which I also wonder, like, was there a funeral for Epstein in Israel that we just aren't told about? At the time, this halted the investigation and sealed the indictment. How? How was it sealed? The Miami Herald said, Acosta agreed, despite a federal law to the contrary, that the deal would be kept from the victims. That the deal would be kept from the victims? Acosta later said he offered a lenient plea deal because he was told that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, was above his pay grade, and to leave it alone. So is Alexander Acosta lying when he says these things? It's pretty interesting, don't you think? Epstein agreed to plead guilty in Florida state court on 2 felony prostitution charges, serve 18 months in prison, register as a sex offender, and pay restitution to 36 victims identified by the FBI. The plea deal was later described as a, quote, sweetheart deal, and he didn't spend 18 months in prison. A judge later found that the prosecutors had violated victims' rights by concealing the agreement from the victims and instead urging them to, quote, have patience. According to an internal review conducted by the Department of Justice's Office of Professional Responsibility, They love creating these offices, these programs that, I mean, seriously, what work do you think these guys do every day to justify their huge paychecks and their prestigious position? Isn't that strange? So now we have one of these videos going where I have 7 watchers and 3 likes. Makes sense, doesn't it? Isn't that how live feeds generally work? The more likes you get, the less viewers you're allowed to have. If you're watching, like, share, and sub. If you give a shit, like, share, and sub. The Justice Office of Professional Responsibility, released in November 22, Acosta showed, quote, poor judgment in granting Epstein a non-prosecution agreement and failing to notify Epstein's alleged victims about the agreement. So it's his fault, the guy who said word came down from up above him that this is what he was supposed to do. It's his fault. On June 30th, 2008, after Epstein pleaded guilty to a state charge of procuring for prostitution, a girl below age 18. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison. While most convicted sex offenders in Florida are sent to state prison, Epstein was instead housed in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade and, according to the sheriff's office, was, after 3.5 months, allowed to leave the jail on work release for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. That was what he was allowed to do, but he did way more. He never slept in the jail. This contravened the sheriff's own policies, requiring a maximum remaining sentence of 10 months and making sex offenders ineligible for the privilege. He was allowed to come and go outside of the specific release hours. He was allowed to come and go outside of specific release hours, meaning he wasn't in prison. He was supposed to be there, but he wasn't. Epstein's cell door was left unlocked, and he had access to the attorney room where a television was installed for him before he was moved to the Stockade's previously unstaffed infirmary. Just think about this. This isn't like this was a guy that was, beloved by the public, super famous. This was a background player. This was a guy behind the scenes that was, a string puller. But it's not like if he would have went to prison, everybody would have known who he was. They had to protect him because of that. Nobody knew who he was. So the fact that that he didn't even go to prison, he went to a specialized cell that had an unlocked door. Like, what are we even saying here? Listen to this. Epstein's cell door was left unlocked, and he had access to the attorney room where a television was installed for him before he was moved to the Stockade's previously unstaffed infirmary. He never even went to prison. He went to the Palm Beach County Stockade.
Holding place, Palm Beach County. I'm sure that was really rough in it. Here.
I don't think I can reach. Yeah, and they're making noise, and dogs only make noise when you hurt them. Oh shit. Try to keep your urges to hurt dogs put away.
I can't, he's probably so big right now, I haven't seen him.
My wife, who showed up yesterday with a fucking baby squirrel that she had to...
Saved him, he's doing good.
Oh yeah, you caused something else a meal. Good job. He worked at the office of a foundation he created shortly before reporting to jail. He dissolved it after he had served his time. I mean, this is just so like cheesy movie villain kind of shit. They had to let him out for work release, important clients. No, I think he didn't want to be in jail. You go look at your average prison. There might be one Jew in the prison. There might be. They just don't get in trouble like we do. And if they did, then the sex offender part of the prison would be stock full of them. The sheriff's office received $128,000 from Epstein's nonprofit to pay for the cost of extra services being provided during his work release. Literally paying for it. His office was monitored by permit deputies whose overtime was paid by Epstein. They were required to wear suits and checked in welcomed guests at the front desk. This guy, what? These permit deputies, I would imagine they're probably Mossad agents. They were required to wear suits. And he had welcomed guests. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about? What? This makes the prison scene in Goodfellas where, you know, he's like, yeah, while these other guys were slapping it up, we had our lobsters. And this makes what they experienced look like prison in comparison. So he has a job and isn't in jail. Seems like special treatment, to say the least. To the least. Later, the sheriff's office said these guest logs were destroyed per the department's records retention rules, although the Stockade visitor logs were not. Epstein was allowed to use his own driver to drive him between jail and his offices and other appointments. What? Epstein, pictured in 2013, photographed for the sex offender registry. Boy, he sure looks like he's upset about it, doesn't he? Doesn't that look like a guy who's really hurting? Epstein served almost 13 months before being released. He didn't even serve the full time. On July 22nd, 2009, for a year of probation on house arrest until August 2010. Sure. While on probation, he was allowed numerous trips on his corporate jet to his residences in Manhattan and the U.S. Virgin Islands. He was allowed long shopping trips and walks around Palm Beach for exercise. After a contested hearing in January 2011 and an appeal, he stayed registered in New York State as a level 3 high risk of repeat offense sex offender, a lifelong designation. Which you wouldn't assume somebody in high positions of government and whatnot would be allowed to have such a designation. He's a level 3 sex offender, and yet all these people still want to work with him and shit. At that hearing, the Manhattan Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Gaffney argued unsuccessfully that the level should be reduced to a low-risk level 1 and was chided by the judge. Despite opposition from Epstein's lawyer that he had a main home in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the judge confirmed he personally must check in with the New York Police Department every 90 days. Get the fuck out of here. This dude had private jets and shit. To be able to jump to New York every 90 days to check in is not some sort of punishment. God, your neighbors hate you. Oh, yes, they sure do. Nothing worse than somebody standing outside talking. Yeah, I bet they just hate me so much for talking. That's why they all drive by and wave. That's why we have such good relationships with them all, because they hate me so much. Though Epstein had been a level 3 registered sex offender in New York since 2010, the New York Police Department never enforced the 90-day regulation, though non-compliance is a felony. And shouldn't the police department be held accountable for not enforcing it? Shouldn't that be a crime as well? Reactions. The immunity agreement and Epstein's lenient treatment were the subject of ongoing public dispute. Yeah, I never heard anything about it. You think Trump doesn't want the release because he's part of that list? So this list that everybody's distracted by is you know, it's like it's just bullshit. I mean, it's been 6 years since he died. So the idea of some list to be created, well, that's, you know, anybody can create anything after 6 years. The only confirmation that Israelis were killed on October 7th is a list that the IDF provides. There's literally not a single piece of footage. You know, actually, I do have to. No, there is. There are a couple of videos that supposedly show people being taken hostage. But these are easily scripted videos. These are just nothing videos. As far as, you know, there being this massacre that took place on October 7th, there's literally no video, no footage anywhere to show it. And this is the most highly surveilled area in the region. The videos you do see show, oh, she must have taken it, show people, you know, trying to flee from the concert by getting out of their car and running. Because that would make sense, right? You're trying to get away from gunfire, from a scene of a massacre as fast as you can. So you get out of your car and start running across a big open field, right? That makes sense. Yeah, Trump would never do anything wrong. Shut your fucking mouth. Why did Ghislaine... Yep, see? Again, just dumb shit. You would think, like, again, there would be more people that would actually give a shit. Instead, you have people that come in here and try to distract and try to detract from the conversation. Why? Who is going to be motivated to attack me? What would be your what's your motivation? What's your payoff? You want to be outed as a pedophile? Is that your thing? Like, you want people to know who you are? What I think is way more important than the list is the tapes that were mentioned earlier. That the Department of Justice acknowledges that they found a safe in each one of his residences in that was wired to every room of the house, audio and visual. The secret control room, the Israeli tech control room. And they found a safe in each one of these rooms that had multiple compact discs and well, DVDs and videotapes and flash drives and all these things that had the name of the famous person, the victim's name, and how old they were. Where are all these videos? That's what I want to know. All right. The Palm Beach police chief accused the State Department of giving him preferential treatment, and the Miami Herald said U.S. Attorney Acosta gave Epstein the deal of a lifetime. Following Epstein's arrest in July 2019 on sex trafficking charges, Acosta resigned as Secretary of Labor effective July 19th, 2019. That's a convenient timing on that one, huh? Go to hell. You'll find them. Yeah, I'm sure, because hell's real. After the accusations against Epstein became public, several persons and institutions returned donations they had received from him, including Elliot Spitzer, Bill Richardson, and the Palm Beach Police Department. Oh, so after it became public, because they you know, it's not like people didn't know who he was before this. Harvard University announced it would not return any money. Various charitable donations that Epstein had made Epstein had made to finance children's education were also questioned. On June 8, 2010, Epstein's former house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, was sentenced to 18 months incarceration after being convicted on an obstruction charge for failing to turn over to police and subsequently trying to sell a journal in which he had recorded Epstein's activities. His own personal journal. His own personal journal, he was required to turn that over to police, and when he didn't and tried to sell it, he was given 18 months incarceration. Not a sweetheart deal. Incarceration. Mossad money, USS Liberty. Yeah. I mean, the USS Liberty is something I definitely want to do a deep dive into. I haven't done that one yet. I need to. Oh, look. We have a fucking dumbass Christian here. Acts 3:19, repent ye therefore and be converted, that your sins may be blotted out, when the times of refreshing shall come from patience, or from the presence of the Lord. I personally don't want to believe in a God that all pedos have to do is repent and then they get to go to the same heaven I go to. That doesn't seem right. Why would God be okay with, I mean, God is clearly okay with all of the child molestation that goes on now. The raping of children in the church specifically. God's definitely okay with that. Which means all of you Christians, you're okay with it too. Yep, because I must be a pedo. That's why I'm so against it. That makes sense. I think we should kill pedos because that's who I am. Yeah, that totally makes all the sense. And this is the best you can do, right? This is the best you can do. You can't actually make any reasonable arguments because you're just an Israeli. You're an Israeli or a J. This is another person joined 6 years ago, has no subscribers. Right, that's believable. Ah, fuck. All right, so let's keep going. So his house manager was given 18 months for not turning over his personal journal, which then the police would have made disappear. Where is that journal? Never did hear about that journal coming out. A journal in which he had recorded Epstein. FBI Special Agent Christina Pryor reviewed the material and agreed it was information, quote, that would have been extremely useful in investigating and prosecuting the case, including names and contact information of material witnesses and additional victims. So why don't we just expose it? Second criminal case, 2019 sex trafficking charges. What is this? This is the indictment. As set forth herein, over the course of many years, Jeffrey Epstein, the defendant, sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls at his home in Manhattan, New York, and Palm Beach, Florida, among other locations. Hey, I wonder how close his Palm Beach residence was to Mar-a-Lago. I wonder if it's one of the many houses that had tunnels that went to Mar-a-Lago. The bot should just please themselves and leave kids alone. Kids are not grown and cannot consent. Yeah, but that's why they like it. You know, part of it is about the parts, body parts. But a big part is the fear, is the mental side of things. They like the idea of breaking people's brains and you know, they like the fear in the child's eyes and the innocence of not knowing what's exactly, you know, actually going to happen and shit. Oh, wait. in particular from at least in or about 2002 up to including at least in or about 2005, Jeffrey Epstein, the defendant, uh, it's hard to read, enticed and recruited and caused to be enticed and recruited minor girls to visit his mansion in Manhattan, New York, the New York residence, and his estate in Palm Beach, Florida, the Palm Beach residence, to engage in sex acts with him, after which he would give the victims hundreds of dollars in cash. Moreover, and in order to maintain and increase his supply of victims, Epstein also paid certain of his victims to recruit additional girls to be similarly abused by Epstein. So, what he did by doing that, by paying them, he insinuates or creates this idea that they're prostitutes, right? So then it becomes this idea of prostitution because they were paid. And if he pays other girls to be a part to bring, or he says, hey, bring a girl here, and then he pays, oh, good job in bringing that girl here. Now they are co-conspirators, whether they wanted to be or not. So it's about manipulation. For a guy worth $500 million to be handing out hundreds of dollars here and there, it's nothing. Nothing more sick than a monster like that. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. On July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested by the FBI New York Police Department Crimes Against Children Task Force at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey on sex trafficking charges. He was jailed at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. According to witnesses and sources on the day of the arrest, about a dozen FBI agents forced open the door to his Manhattan townhouse, the Herbert N. Strauss home, with search warrants. Let's see this Herbert N. Strauss home. The Herbert Strauss home. That's this motherfucker. It's a large townhouse. The exterior was designed by Horace Trumbauer and completed in 1932. It was designed and completed in 1932. In the midst of the recession, in a time where we barely had, technology and shit, they built this house to be believed. The house was believed to be 21,000 square feet in the late 80s, and by 2003 had been enlarged to 51,000 square feet, spread over 9 floors. A 15-foot high oak door and large arch window, blah, 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 blah. History. Herbert Strauss, the sixth of 7 children born to Isidore and Ida Strauss, co-owners of R.H. Macy & Co., never lived in the house. And work on the house was canceled shortly before Strauss's death in 1933. Gotta love building these big giant houses to never be lived in. Strauss's heirs never completed work on the house due to the high cost of property taxes. It was unfinished in 1944 when it was donated by Strauss's sons to the Archdiocese of New York for a hospital. The Birch Raythan School occupied the house from 1962 until 1989, when it was purchased for $13.2 million by the billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner. It was featured in the December edition of Architectural Digest. The interior of the house was designed under Wexner by Jeffrey Safindis and remodeled. Okay. Epstein moved into the house in 1995, at which time he claimed to own it, although its registered ownership changed in 2011 from a trust connected to both Wexner and Epstein to a trust controlled by Epstein. Vicky Ward visited Epstein at the house for the Talented Mr. Epstein, her 2003 profile in Vanity Fair magazine. I never read that. Ew, no, gosh. Ugh, glad I'm not. That would be gross. Ward wrote that she felt that upon entering the house, you feel like you have stumbled into someone's private Xanadu. This is no mere rich person's home, but a high-walled, eclectic, imperious, imperious fantasy that seems to have no boundaries. Rows of individually framed eyeballs manufactured for English soldiers decorated the entrance hall, along with a twice life-size sculpture of a naked African warrior. Eyeballs? Rows of individually framed eyeballs. That's gross. A room disguised as a leather room had leopard print chairs with walls decorated in cordovan colored fabric. A large oriental fantasy of a woman holding an opium pipe and caressing a snarling lion skin hung on the walls. A large office spanned the width of the house, decorated with a large Persian rug alongside 18th century black lacquered Portuguese cabinets and a desk that belonged to the banker J.P. Morgan, of course. A copy of Justine, The Misfortunes of Virtue by Marquise de Sade, which tells the tale of the sexually abused 12-year-old protagonist of the novel, was on the desk. Gosh, that's coincidental. A Steinway grand piano was surmounted by a stuffed black poodle. Epstein told Ward that no decorator would ever tell you to do that, but I want people to think what it means to stuff a dog. I want people to think what it means to stuff a dog. The French decorator Alberto Pinto was responsible for much of the interior. The house has a bathroom lined in lead with closed-circuit television. This is just one of those giant doorways that for some reason these old houses had. The New York City Police Department authorities and FBI agents raided the house in 2019 as part of the federal investigation. 2021. In March 2021, former Goldman Sachs executive Michael Daffy purchased the home for $51 million, with proceeds from the sale going to Epstein's Victims Compensation Program. Daffy secured a $30.6 million loan from Citigroup to purchase the home. Why was he loaned that money? And that's the end of it. That's all you get. The search of his townhouse turned up evidence of sex trafficking and also found hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs of fully or partially nude females. Some of the new photos were confirmed as those of underage females. In a locked safe, compact discs were found with handwritten labels, including the descriptions young name plus famous person's name, I guess. Miscellaneous nudes 1 and girl pics nude. These were in a safe in his house. It's without a doubt that there are hundreds of videos, who knows how many videos, of famous people at Epstein's house having sex with underage girls, raping underage girls. Whether they were seemingly willingly participating or not, that part doesn't matter. If they're underage, it's rape. Make it make sense, people. Where did those videos go? While everybody's stuck talking about some fucking list that apparently doesn't even exist anymore. You know, like they did with John Doe number 2. Regarding the Oklahoma City thing. Where everybody and their mom was looking for John Doe number 2 for months, and then suddenly out of nowhere, What's up, Leah Bia? Good to see you, girl. Also found in his safe, in the safe were $70,000 in cash, 48 diamonds, and a fraudulent fraudulent Austrian passport, which expired in 1987, that had Epstein's photo but another name. I wonder what that other name was. You never really get to see who that is. Leah. I'm the other real one here, right? The passport had numerous entrances. The passport had numerous entrance and exit stamps, including entrance stamps that showed the use of the passport into France, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia in the 1980s. The passport showed his place of residence as Saudi Arabia. According to his attorneys, Epstein had been advised to acquire the passport because, as an affluent member of the Jewish faith, he was in danger of being kidnapped while traveling abroad. Oh, yeah, because you hear about those stories all the time, don't you? All those stories of affluent Jews being kidnapped while traveling. You've heard about that, haven't you? On July 8th, prosecutors with the Public Corruption Unit of the Southern District of New York charged him with sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for sex. To himself, of course, right? Because Ghislaine is guilty of trafficking to Epstein, and that's it. The grand jury indictment alleges that dozens of underage girls were brought into Epstein's mansion for sexual encounters. Judge Kenneth Mara was to decide whether the non-prosecution agreement that protected Epstein from the more serious charges should still stand. Epstein requested to be released on bond, offering to post $100 million with the condition that he would also submit to house arrest in his New York City mansion. U.S. District Judge Richard M. Berman denied the request on July 18th, saying that Epstein posed a danger to the public and a serious flight risk to avoid prosecution. On August 29th, 2019, 19 days after Epstein was found dead in his jail cell, the case against Epstein was closed by Judge Berman. Prosecutors stated they would continue an investigation for potential co-conspirators. How did that work out? If the case is closed, then how do they continue to investigate? The case was closed. Investigation in France. On August 23rd, 2019, the prosecutor's office in Paris, France, opened a preliminary investigation into Epstein after Yael Milou wrote to the Paris prosecutor to report the international dimensions of the pedophile network involving Jeffrey Epstein. It's a pedophile network that only he and Ghislaine got in trouble for. Criticizing the slow pace of justice. He is being investigated for rape and sexual assault of minors under and over the age of 15. Now we're back to 15, huh? Criminal association with a view to committing crimes and association with criminals with a view to committing offenses. With a view? That's weird. Do you ever do FOIA requests on anything? Why? I think people are so delusional when it comes to that shit. Like, people believe that there's some superhero that's standing in the offices, Freedom of Information Act man. And anytime that they're scanning documents into the system and they go, hey, maybe we shouldn't scan this one, it's too scandalous. Freedom of Information Act man steps up and says, no. The citizens deserve transparency. You must you must accommodate this request. You must scan this document. Like, no, that's not how it works. Where's the roast, chicken head? I mean, just think about how fucking stupid that is. If they charge you for it, they put you on some sort of list, and any information they don't want you to have, they just redact it. You know, you'll get your Freedom of Information Act request, and it'll be all blacked out due to national security. So the idea that you can somehow, you know, get some secret information from the system by doing these Freedom of Information Act requests. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, they'll just deny it most of the time. They just deny it. But if they don't deny it, they just redact what they don't want you to know. So what would be the point of doing it? The prosecutor said the goal of the investigation is to find possible crimes committed in France and elsewhere against French citizens. Civil cases. Jane Doe versus Epstein, 2008. On February 6, 2008, an anonymous Virginia woman known as Jane Doe No. 2 filed a $50 million civil lawsuit in federal court against Epstein, saying that when she was 16 years old, she was a 16-year-old minor in 2004 and 2005, she was recruited to give Epstein a massage. She claims she was taken to his mansion where he exposed himself and had sexual intercourse with her and paid her $200 immediately afterward. A similar $50 million suit was filed in March 2008 by a different woman who was represented by the same lawyer. These and several similar lawsuits were dismissed. All other lawsuits had been settled by Epstein out of court. Epstein made many out-of-court settlements with alleged victims. I mean, it's just insane. It's if you have enough money, you can buy your way out of it. Victims' rights. On December 30th, 2014, December 30th, 2014, federal civil suit was filed in Florida by Jane Doe No. 1, Courtney Wild, and Jane Doe No. 2 against the United States for violations of the Crime Victims' Rights Act by the U.S. Department of Justice's NPA with Epstein and his limited 2008 state plea. There was a latter unsuccessful effort to add Virginia Roberts, Jane Doe No. 3, and another woman, Jane Doe No. 4, as plaintiffs to the case. The addition accused Alan Dershowitz of sexually abusing a minor, Jane Doe No. 3, provided by Epstein. The allegations against Dershowitz were stricken by the judge and eliminated from the case because he said they were outside the intent of the suit to reopen the plea agreement? Oh, get the fuck out of here. It was just a question, and you got answered, didn't you? I mean, this is just insane, right? And Alan Dershowitz acknowledges that he did get a massage, but that was it. Because everybody was getting massages. Why would it be different if he did?
Why would a famous lawyer defend someone like Jeffrey Epstein? His answer might surprise you.
I was his lawyer, and I've been a lawyer for worse. That's what lawyers do. Do you also want to condemn his doctor? No. You War lawyers are different, right? Because they actually defend them. Doctors are secure. But you don't want a system
See that?
where
Look at how he
guilt
always
is
tries to
determined
pass the
without
buck.
lawyers. And it doesn't matter how much the evidence is, even this guy who killed the CEO, you want him to be vigorously defended. And that's what I did for Epstein. We didn't win. We made a plea bargain. He went to jail for 18 months.
He didn't go to jail.
Plea bargain. Complain to the prosecution. Complain to the judge. Don't complain to the defense attorney. Our job is to get the best plea bargain we can.
Why would a famous lawyer defend someone like Jeffrey Epstein? His answer might surprise you.
Yeah, I was his lawyer, and I've been a lawyer for worse. That's what lawyers do. Do you also want to condemn his doctors? No. War lawyers are different, right? Because they actually defend them. Doctors secure them. But you don't want a system where guilt is determined without
Okay, but that's not the one I was looking for.
Dershowitz is a longtime friend of Epstein's who represented him in the criminal underage sex case.
Like, can you imagine if you found out your friend was a level 3 sex offender? Would you still be his friend?
Never saw a young underage woman.
Yet Epstein's former butler, Dershowitz is a longtime friend of Epstein's who represented him in the criminal underage sex case. Could you please?
I never saw a young underage woman.
Yet Epstein's former butler swore under oath that Dershowitz was at Epstein's residences at the same time underage girls were there.
Were there young women in another part of the house giving massages when I wasn't around? I have no idea of that.
Dershowitz did say he once received a massage at Epstein's mansion from an adult woman.
I kept my underwear on during the massage. I don't like massages particularly.
Bob Norman.
Really? Then why'd you get it? But that's not the interview I was talking about.
He's your good friend. You want to defend him so much.
What are you talking about?
You're defending him.
Huh?
You're defending him. You're defending a monster. A pervert. An old pervert.
He's not a pervert or a monster.
Why is he not? He knew Epstein. And for us, there's good influence.
Why are you doing this, Mohammed?
Why not?
Because it's pointless. You may get a few clicks
ask
on
your questions.
You might get a few clicks on it. So what?
It's not.
Ask your questions.
Let me be very clear. It's not pointless. He just called me a pervert. He will be sued now for defamation, and we will be able to resolve this in a court of law. I guarantee you that he will be sued.
In my understanding, you are a pervert because you are acquainted with Jeffrey Epstein.
Has now withdrawn her
I've got my own defamation case. I know the law very well here.
That
you
she
can't
may have
threaten me.
confused me with somebody
very
else.
well.
And
I
calling
consider
me
you to be a pervert
will
because of your
result
connection with
in
Jeffrey
a
Epstein.
defamation lawsuit
Sure,
in
I'm
an
ready for
American
it.
court
I'm
and in
ready.
a British
I'm ready
court.
for the
He never got sued, I'm sure of it. Let's see.
Is there a secret to staying as sharp as Alan Dershowitz?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I finally ditched my Ring doorbell and switched to Safe
Let's see
Doorbell.
what this
and
has.
I honestly wish I had done this way sooner. Here's what...
You actually handled the tough questions. You know, you even bring it up yourself, and you've had some of the worst allegations.
Look, I've had sex with one woman since the day I met my wife, so I'm very proud of that.
I'm sure it was one woman that you've had sex with. Young girls, it's a whole different thing. And raping isn't having sex with.
Anybody who hugs people. The reason they couldn't successfully go after me is I have nothing to hide. I say, let everything be released. I waive all my rights.
Sure you do.
Every deposition, every videotape, everything should be out there because they will all prove my innocence because I didn't do it. I had nothing to do with it.
No, and I mean, like I said, I think you've had a lot of validity in your claims. But the problem is with the association of Jeffrey Epstein, and you know, with obviously that reputation, that you're fighting an uphill battle. But I want to show, we saw this one clip, and I just want to get your opinion on it. So if you can show that, I want to show Alan this short one and just kind of get your opinion on what this clip is about.
Okay, that was in my wife's calendar. My wife scheduled a massage. If you think my wife scheduled a massage with an underage sex slave, then you'll believe anything. No, other calendar. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Let me finish.
Visiting scholar. My wife had professional masseuse. We have checks, canceled checks, proving that the massage occurred, when it occurred, who it occurred with, and
because there was only one massage
in my life. One at Jeffrey Epstein's house by a middle-aged woman who gave me a shoulder and neck massage, which I hated. I called up my wife and complained about it immediately. No, I've done nothing.
You can ask her. You can call my wife and ask her. I called and complained.
You will not be able to make just charges against me without giving
You
me
had a massage at Jeffrey Epstein's house? Yeah, do you know who it was who performed that?
Yes, I mean, we know approximately who it was. There were a lot of people around, or we think we remember, and the person who was in charge of the Epstein house confirmed this, that it's a woman named Olga who was in her 40s and was a professional massage therapist.
And Alan, I thought you handled that pretty well, but
what a piece of shit, man. What a horrible piece of shit. I can't find the video where he talks about it. Oh, because there's another video where he talks about it. You would think this would pop right up. Anyway. Another woman is plaintiff. The addition, the allegations against Dershowitz were stricken by the judge. Because, again, they were outside the intent of the suit. A document filed in court alleges that Epstein ran a sexual abuse ring and lent underage girls to prominent American politicians, powerful business executives, foreign presidents, a well-known prime minister, Ehud Barak, and other world leaders. The long-running lawsuit is pending in federal court, aimed at vacating the federal plea agreement on the grounds that it violated victims' rights. On April 7, 2015, Judge Kenneth Murrah ruled that the allegations made by alleged victim Virginia Roberts, against Prince Andrew had no bearing on the lawsuit by alleged victims seeking to reopen Epstein's non-prosecution plea agreement with the federal government. The judge ordered the allegation be struck from the record. That is just crazy, especially when you know, like, the great lengths that prosecutions and that the judicial system will use to connect things, to pile on charges and connect, you resisted because you tensed up a little bit, and like they just love doing that kind of shit to us, but not against them, I guess. Why don't we talk about something more important right now? Right. Something more important than this, like the genocide? You want to talk about the genocide? Judge Murrah made no ruling as to whether claims by Roberts are true or false, though he did not allow Jane Doe's 3 and 4 to join the suit. Murrah specifically said that Roberts may later give evidence when the case comes to court. On February 21st, 2019, in the case of 2 Jane Does versus United States, senior judge of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, Kenneth Murrah, said federal prosecutors violated the law by failing to notify victims before they allowed him to plead guilty to only the 2 Florida offenses. The judge left open what the possible remedies could be. Oh, well, that's good. Virginia Giuffre versus Epstein. In a December 2014 Florida court filing by Bradley Edwards and Paul G. Castle, meant for inclusion in the Crime Victims' Rights Act lawsuit, Virginia Giuffre, then known as Virginia Roberts, alleged in a sworn affidavit that at 17 she had been sexually trafficked by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for their own use and for use by others, including Prince Andrew and retired law professor Alan Dershowitz. Again, what would be why would they do this? Just because they all just hate Jews so much, right? Yep, I have schizophrenia because I'm reading. So again, all of these random people, they just come say the same shit, huh? Joined 1 month ago and has 1 subscriber. Right. That's a real person there. Giuffre also claimed that Epstein, Maxwell, and others had physically and sexually abused her. She alleged the FBI may have been involved in a cover-up. She said she had served as Epstein's sex slave from 1999 to 2002 and recruited other underage girls. Prince Andrew, Epstein, and Dershowitz all denied having sex with Giuffre. Dershowitz took legal action over the allegations. I mean, how do you even do it? As the victim, how would you prove that this happened? Other than accurately describing penises, I guess. In Epstein's egg-shaped penis, Giuffre filed a defamation suit against Dershowitz, claiming he purposefully made, quote, false and malicious defamatory statements about her. A diary purported to belong to Giuffre was published online. Epstein entered an out-of-court settlement with Giuffre, as he had done in several other lawsuits. In 2019, Giuffre was interviewed by the BBC's Panorama, where she continued to attest that Epstein had trafficked her to Prince Andrew. She appealed directly to the public, stating, I implore the people in the UK to stand up beside me, to help fight this fight, to not accept this as being okay. These accusations had not been tested in any court of law. Giuffre versus Maxwell. As a result of Giuffre's allegations and Maxwell's comments about them, Giuffre sued Maxwell for defamation in September 2015. After much legal confrontation, the case was settled under seal in May 2017. Why are these people so protected by the system? The Miami Herald, other media, and Alan Dershowitz filed to have the documents about the settlement unsealed. After the judge dismissed their request, the matter was appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. On May 11, 2019, in the appeal of the district judge's refusal to unseal the documents relating to the 2017 defamation settlement of Giuffre versus Maxwell, the Second Circuit Court gave parties 1 week to provide good cause as to why they should remain under seal, without which they would be unsealed on March 19, 2019. Later, the court ordered these documents to be unsealed after having them redacted to protect innocent parties. Well, there you go. There you go. In testimony, Giuffre claimed that she was directed by Maxwell to give erotic massages and engage in sexual activities with Prince Andrew, Jean-Luc Brunel, Glenn Dubin, Marvin Minsky, Governor Bill Richardson, another unnamed prince, and unnamed foreign president. Or an unnamed foreign president, a well-known prime minister, quote, and an unnamed hotel chain owner in France, among others. Giuffre testified, my whole life revolved around just pleasing these men and keeping Ghislaine and Jeffrey happy. Their entire lives revolved around sex. That's fucking nuts. On August 9th, less than 24 hours before Epstein's death, 2,000 pages of previously sealed documents from the case were released. 2 sets of additional sealed documents were expected to be analyzed by a federal judge to determine whether they should be made public. A John Doe asked the judge to permanently keep the document secret, claiming unproven allegation of impropriety could damage his reputation, though he had no evidence his name was included. Well, then how did he know? Obviously, he was guilty for him to have done this if his name wasn't named. Jane Doe versus Epstein and Trump. A federal lawsuit filed in California in April 2016 against Epstein and Donald Trump by a California woman alleged that the two men sexually assaulted her at a series of parties at Epstein's Manhattan residence in 1994 when she was 13 years old. The suit was dismissed by a federal judge in May 2016 because it did not raise valid claims under federal law. The woman filed another federal suit in New York in June 2016, but it was withdrawn 3 months later, apparently without being served on the defendants. A third federal suit was filed in New York in September 2016, and that's that. The two latter suits included affidavits by an anonymous witness who attested to the accusations in the suits, asserting Epstein employed her to procure underage girls for him, and an anonymous person who declared the plaintiff had told her about the assaults at the time they occurred. Mossad doesn't like this. I'm sure they don't. What a random thing for some random troll to say, huh? Isn't that a strange thing for some random troll to say? Joined 13 years ago, has 25 subscribers. Just happened to fucking stumble upon this feed, hear what I'm reading, and says, Mossad doesn't like this. What a weird, specific troll. You know, just a random troll, huh? The plaintiff, who had filed anonymously as Jane Doe, was scheduled to appear in a Los Angeles press conference 6 days before the 2016 election, but abruptly canceled the event. Her lawyer, Lisa Bloom, asserted that the woman had received threats. The suit was dropped on November 4, 2016. Trump attorney Alan Garten denied the allegations while Epstein declined to comment. Imagine if you had these allegations against you. Wouldn't you do everything in your power to prove that it was wrong? In 2017, Sarah Ransom, her last name is Ransom, filed a suit against Epstein and Maxwell, alleging that Maxwell had hired her to give massages to Epstein and later threatened to physically harm her or destroy her career prospects if she did not comply with their sexual demands at his mansion in New York City and on his private Caribbean island, Little St. James. The suit was settled in 2018 under undisclosed terms. And it's weird too because it's not like this was like talked about all the time on TV and shit. So these people just knew to make up these allegations. This was all under the radar. Bradley Edwards defamation versus Epstein. A civil lawsuit in Florida filed by attorney Bradley Edwards against Epstein was scheduled for trial in December 2018. The trial was expected to provide victims with their first opportunity to make their accusations public. However, the case was settled on the first day of the trial, with Epstein publicly apologizing to Edwards. Other terms of the settlement were confidential. Oop. Now I've been warned by another page that was joined that joined 7 years ago and has 1.66 thousand subscribers. And now this random profile, I have been warned. Interesting, huh? You don't want me reading the Wikipedia that you guys provide us to know, huh? Seems strange. On April 16, 2019, Maria Farmer went public and filed a sworn affidavit in federal court in New York, alleging that she and her 15-year-old sister Annie had been sexually assaulted by Epstein and Maxwell in separate locations in 1996. June 4th, federal agent charged with there's no such thing as child porn. These are child exploitation materials. They're not child porn. Porn is an agreed upon arrangement where payment is made and whatnot, or just a consenting, agreed upon engagement. This is exploitation materials. Keep the idiocy coming. It makes the time on the toilet more entertaining. Right. Like, I get it. This person thinks that it's entertaining. 12 years ago, 1,200 subscribers, basically. This person thinks it's entertaining to hear about child sexual assault, rape cases, all this other shit. That's entertaining to this person. That makes sense, right? That makes sense. It's not revenge porn, is it? It's exploitation materials. You're stupid, man. You've been watching, so what do I care? Your idiocy is entertaining. Right. I'm entertaining for talking about these horrible things. No, I get it. You're a piece of shit pedo, and you're a genocide supporter, and you're more than likely chosen, which is why you say these things. You could be literally watching anything else in the world. You're on YouTube. You could be doing, and you come here every day for hours on end to be entertained by somebody who thinks we should kill pedophiles, stop the genocide, and end the chosen control. That sounds reasonable. I believe it. I don't know why you're putting out random shit, but okay. In 2022, oh wait, this is a different, we skipped one. Maria Farmer. Maria went public on April 16, 2019. Maria Farmer went public and filed a sworn affidavit in federal court that her sister would blah blah. Farmer met Epstein and Maxwell at her graduate art gallery reception at the New York Academy of Art in 1995. The following year, in the summer of 1996, they hired her to work on an art project in Leslie Wexner's Ohio mansion, where she was then sexually assaulted. I mean, seriously, why would you hire a 16-year-old artist to do anything? You're going to hire this 16-year-old, fly her out to wherever you're supposed to be. Like, she's from New York, so you got to fly her to Ohio. You have to put her, she's that great of an artist that there was nobody else that could be used. You had to use this 16-year-old. That makes sense, doesn't it? Farmer reported the incident to the New York City Police Department and the FBI. Farmer's affidavit also stated that during the same summer, Epstein flew her then 15-year-old sister to his New Mexico property where he and Maxwell sexually abused her on a massage table. Jennifer Eraz. On July 22nd, 2019, while in jail awaiting trial, Epstein was served with a petition regarding a pending state civil lawsuit filed by Jennifer Eraz. She stated that an associate for Epstein had recruited her outside Talent Unlimited High School at age 14. Talent Unlimited High School? And she was gradually groomed over a year before Epstein raped her in his New York City mansion when she was 15. Eraz filed suit on August 14, 2019, when New York state law was updated to allow 1 year for adult survivors of child sexual abuse to sue for previous offenses, regardless of how long the abuse took place. How long ago the abuse took place. Why there would be any sort of limitations at all just goes to show you who controls our system and why. Right? Think about how fucking insane this is. In October 2019, Eraz amended her complaint to include over 20 corporate entities associated with Epstein and named the additional individuals Leslie Goff and Cimberly, C-I-M-B, is it Kimberly with a C, I guess? Kimberly Espinoza as enablers. Caitlin Doe. 3 women, Caitlin Doe, Lisa Doe, and Priscilla Doe, sued the estate of Jeffrey Epstein on August 20th, 2019, 2 of the women were 17 and 1 was 20 when they met Epstein. The women alleged that they were recruited, subjected to unwanted sexual acts, and controlled by Epstein in a vast enterprise of co-conspirators. Let's see. Parties aren't doing the same thing. The insane part is how many people still think the parties aren't doing the same things, which is why no true exposure has or will ever happen. Yeah, no, nobody thinks that it's one side or the other, you dumb fucking pedo jackass. Way to try to like, distract and try to dilute things with your nonsense. A New York accuser of Epstein, known only as Jane Doe, announced a federal lawsuit against his estate in the Southern District of New York on September 18, 2019, stating that she was recruited in 2002 and sexually abused by Epstein for 3 years, starting at age 14. Teresa Helm, 5 women, Teresa Helm, Annie Farmer, Maria Farmer, Juliet Bryant, and an unidentified woman, represented by David Boyce, sued Epstein's estate in federal district court in Manhattan in November of 2019, accusing him of rape, battery, and false imprisonment, and seeking unspecified damages. On November 18, 2019, a woman identified as Jane Doe 15 made a public appearance with her attorney Gloria Allred to announce that she was suing the estate of Jeffrey Epstein in the district court for the Southern District of New York, alleging that he manipulated, trafficked, and sexually abused her in 2004 when she was 15 years old. On November 21st, 2019, Telia Davies appeared with her attorney Gloria Allred and announced her lawsuit in Manhattan federal court against Epstein's estate. Davies stated that after meeting Epstein in 2002, he sexually assaulted and trafficked her in New York, New Mexico, and Florida, the Virgin Islands, and France. On December 3rd, 2019, lawyer Jordan Merson filed a lawsuit in New York on behalf of 9 anonymous accusers, Jane Doe's 1 through 9, and against Epstein's estate for battery, assault, and intentional emotional distress. The claims date from 1985 through the 2000s and include individuals who were 13, 14, and 15 when they first encountered Epstein. Seems like he has a preferred age range. The lawsuit was filed by J.J. Doe versus Epstein. The lawsuit was filed by Bradley Edwards on behalf of his client in late December 2019. The accuser, J.J. Doe, is described as being a 14-year-old resident of Palm Beach County at the time Epstein abused her in 2004. U.S. Virgin Islands versus Epstein estate. A lawsuit was filed in Superior Court of the U.S. Virgin Islands in January 2020, alleging that Epstein ran a sex trafficking conspiracy over 2 decades through 2018 with children as young as 11 years old on Epstein's Caribbean islands. According to the Attorney General Denise George, his alleged criminal activities on the islands were concealed through a complex network of companies. You niggas must be blind, or your homers got your mind. In January 2020, a lawsuit was filed against Maxwell and Epstein, alleging that they recruited a 13-year-old music student at the Interlochen Center for the Arts in 1994 and subjected her to sexual abuse. The suit states that Jane Doe was repeatedly sexually assaulted by Epstein over a 4-year period, and that Maxwell played a key role in both her recruitment and by participating in the assaults. In August 2020, 9 Jane Does filed suit accusing Epstein of sexual abuse. The alleged victims in the lawsuit include an 11-year-old and a victim who alleged abuse in 1975. I mean, remember, he was given his position at the prestigious Dalton Academy as a teacher, even though he never graduated or had the proper credits to do it. And he was given that position by Attorney General William Barr's father as one of his last acts as the headmaster of the school. For the next 2 years, He got in trouble multiple times for inappropriate behavior, touching, and all this other stuff of students. And after 2 years was dismissed. But the one of the top bigwigs at Bear Stearns had a kid who went to that school and knew of all those accusations, and he was like, oh, hey, let me give you a job at Bear Stearns instead. Because that makes sense, doesn't it? State is in August 2029. In August 2020, Epstein was sued by a Jane Doe accusing him of sexually abusing her for over a year, beginning when she was 18. A civil suit was filed against Epstein's estate in March 2021 by a Broward County woman who accused Epstein and Maxwell of trafficking her after repeatedly raping her in Florida in 2008. Like, are we honestly just going to say that all of these people just made this up? They all just made it up. And in all of these cases, the reason we didn't hear about all these cases and there hasn't been further investigation and all this other stuff, further shit that's come from it, is because it was all just fake. A civil suit filed against Epstein's estate in March 2021. The U.S. government sued J.P. Morgan Chase Bank in 2022, alleging that J.P. Morgan facilitated, sustained, and concealed the human trafficking network operated by Jeffrey Epstein. A related class action alleged that the bank assisted in the structuring of Epstein's withdrawals of large amounts of cash. Do you guys remember hearing about the government suing J.P. Morgan? Are you fucking kidding me? Why didn't we hear about this? That's all that's all the allegations that are listed here. There's more. So now we're going into Epstein's personal life. Previous long-term girlfriends of Epstein include Ava Anderson Dubin and publishing heiress Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein dated Anderson Dubin for an 11-year period, mostly in the 80s, and the two later remained friendly well after her marriage to Glenn Dubin. Epstein met Maxwell, daughter of disgraced media baron Robert Maxwell, by 1991. Epstein had Maxwell come to the United States in 1991 to recover from her grief following the death of her father. Maxwell, so literally the same exact time. Like it's just, it's like a bad villain script in a cheesy movie. Maxwell was later implicated by several of Epstein's accusers as procuring and recruiting underage girls in addition to once being Epstein's girlfriend. Several of Epstein's household employees testified in 2009 that Maxwell had a central role in both his public and private life, referring to her as his main girlfriend, who also handled the hiring, supervising, and firing of staff starting around 1992. Boy, she sure did ingratiate herself right off the bat. What, cow? Okay. I agree, Epstein should kill himself.
Oh my gosh. The Trump supporters are all up in arms about the list that he's not releasing. He's saying the list doesn't exist now.
Right. Yeah, the list doesn't exist. But the list is the cover-up because the tapes exist. What about the tapes?
And the MAGA supporters are just pissed.
What about the tapes? What are they pissed about? What are they pissed about? That he's saying the list doesn't exist now?
They're pissed, yeah. That he, they feel that he is not delivering on his promise that there were supposed to be, it's been 6 months, there were supposed to be indictments by now. The list was supposed to be disclosed and released. And he was supposed to be able to prove that he's not on that list and had nothing to do with any of it. And he's not proving any of that.
Good, man. I'm glad to see that the Trumpanzees have a human side. That's actually really great. Are the comments shut off again? Is that how this works? Comments shut off because you were saying too much? This guy is ladybug. Who cares? He's dead. There's a reason why the biggest sex trafficking scandal, blah, 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 is associated with a dead guy. So you think it's all wrapped up nicely. It's not. He's not dead. In 1995, Epstein renamed one of his companies the Ghislaine Corporation in Palm Beach, Florida. The company was dissolved in 1998. Is that the one that was the thing that he did when he was in prison? Or when he was serving his sentence? It's hard to say he was in prison since he was never in prison. In 2000, Maxwell moved into a 7,000 square foot townhouse less than 10 blocks from Epstein's New York mansion. The townhome was purchased for $4.95 million by an anonymous limited liability company with an address that matches the offices of Jeffrey Epstein and Company. Representing the buyer was Darren Indyke, Epstein's longtime lawyer. In 2003, Vanity Fair article, Epstein refers to Maxwell as my best friend. Interesting. Epstein was a longtime acquaintance of Prince Andrew and Tom Barack, and attended parties with many prominent people, including Bill Clinton, George Stephanopoulos. I mean, Epstein, Trump, and Stephanopoulos were known as the Three Amigos or the Three Musketeers in the New York nightlife scene for many, many years. You know, prior to getting in trouble, they were seen together all the time. So he attended prominent parties with many prominent people, including Bill Clinton, Stephanopoulos, Mark Zuckerberg, Donald Trump, Katie Couric, Woody Allen. Oh, Woody Allen, that's a good guy right there, huh? Jeff Bezos, Sergey Brin, Naomi Campbell, Stephen Hawking, and Harvey Weinstein. Oh my gosh, what a surprise.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hello, for you.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Have a good day.
You do the same. Or that homework's got your mind. Contacts listed in his printed phone directory include Rupert Murdoch, Michael Bloomberg, Andrew Cuomo, John Kerry, Richard Branson, Alec Baldwin, David Koch, and Michael Jackson. The, quote, Black Book also included Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who is that prominent prime minister that they don't mention, British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Both Clinton and Trump claim they never visited Epstein's island, but they have. According to Michael Wolff, former Trump chief strategist Steve Bannon and Epstein were introduced in 2017. Bannon met with Epstein several times at his mansion in New York. According to Wolf, Bannon coached Epstein for a 60 Minutes interview, which never occurred. A New York Times article reported that Bill Gates' relationship with Jeffrey Epstein started in 2011, just a few years after Epstein's conviction, and continued for some years. In August 2021, Gates said that the reason he had meetings with Epstein was because Gates hoped Epstein could provide money for philanthropic work, though nothing came of the idea. Gates added it was a huge mistake to spend time with him, to give him the credibility of being there. Yeah. Epstein owned a private Boeing 727 jet, frequently, logging 600 flying hours a year, usually with guests on board. The jet was nicknamed the Lolita Express by the locals in the Virgin Islands because of its frequent arrival to Little St. James with apparently underage girls. In 2003, Epstein flew to Cuba aboard his plane with Colombian President Andres Pastrana Arango at the invitation of Cuban President Fidel Castro. According to Fabolia Santiago of the Miami Herald, Epstein was likely considering relocating to Cuba in order to escape U.S. law enforcement. Epstein was under investigation from U.S. law enforcement at the time. Ask yourself why my comment section has been shut off. In 2009, Epstein's brother Mark claimed Trump had flown on Epstein's plane at least once. He later told the Washington Post that Trump flew numerous times on Epstein's airplane, although Mark was present on only one of the flights. According to Mark Corcoran, Trump flew Epstein on his own personal plane at least once. In September 2002, Epstein flew Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker to Africa in his jet. Flight records obtained in 2016 show Bill Clinton flew 27 times to at least a dozen international locations, while claiming he'd never been on Epstein's jet. Flight logs did not list any Secret Service detail for at least 5 flights. Flight logs did not list any Secret Service detail for at least 5 flights on a 2002 trip to Asia, and Secret Service stated there is no evidence of the former president making a trip to Epstein's private island. In 2019, a Clinton spokesperson stated that in 2002 and 2003, Clinton took 4 trips on Epstein's airplane, making stops on 3 continents, all of which his staff and Secret Service detail. All with his staff and Secret Service detail. But why? Why would they fly on Epstein's plane for any reason whatsoever? You know, I mean, it's like, yeah, we flew on the plane, but well, why? Didn't you have other options? Doesn't that, wouldn't that plane have to go through all sorts of fucking crazy inspections and shit to be able to be, to fly former presidents? And just seems weird. By the way, if you're commenting, my comments on my end have been turned off for nothing weird reason at all. At the time of Epstein's 2019 arrest, Clinton spokeswoman Angel Urena stated that Clinton had not spoken to Epstein in well over a decade and has never been to Little St. James Island, Epstein's ranch in New Mexico, or his residence in Florida. This is normal.
Jeffrey Epstein is a terrific guy.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I mean, people in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan. I was not, a long time ago. I'd say maybe 15 years.
I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his. So I feel very badly, actually, for Secretary Acosta, because I've known him as being somebody that works so hard and has done such a good job. I feel very badly about that whole situation. But we're going to be looking at that and looking at it very closely. We're also going to be signing a big contract in a little while, so we're going to see you in a little while in a different room in a different part of the White House where we're going to be signing up a big deal with Boeing. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Well, that sure answered that question, didn't it? Fuck. In a profile of Epstein in New York Magazine in 2002, Donald Trump remarked, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy." So he hadn't talked to him in 15 years. He knew him for 15 years. This is what I mean. Trump's really stupid. He really is a stupid fucking character. Right? Like it's obvious when Trump has somebody in his ear reading to him what he's supposed to say, because he goes into this mode and he just sort of talks like this. When he's shooting from the hip, his hand is all flapping around and wavy, and he's doing that all the time, and you know. But he's really a stupid man. And the thought that, hey, you said you knew him for 15 years. Maybe you shouldn't say you'd stop talking. Like, you should change it up a little. It doesn't occur to him. For 15 years, so he said this in 2002. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. It's pretty fucking cryptic thing to say. In July 2019, Trump said, "I knew him like everybody else in Palm Beach knew him," stating 4 times he had not been a fan of Epstein and that he had not spoken to him in about 15 years. A video shot in 1992 surfaced showing the two men partying together at Mar-a-Lago. By 2007, Trump reportedly banned Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club for unseemly pursuit of young girls. The ban allegation was included in court documents filed by attorney Bradley Edwards, although Edwards later said it was rumored he tried to, but could not confirm. It said it was a rumor he tried to, but could not confirm. So the idea of the ban that took place in 2007 was just a rumor and couldn't be confirmed anywhere. That's strange. You don't hear that part when you talk about, whenever Trump hansees will be like, he was banned. He was banned. It's just that it was a rumor. In 2002, a spokesman of Bill Clinton lauded Epstein as a committed philanthropist with insights and generosity. At the time, Epstein was on the board of Rockefeller University, a member of the Trilateral Commission and the Council of Foreign Relations, and was a major donor to Harvard University. You want to talk about powerful organizations that control our lives. Epstein's a member of all of it. I wonder what his AIPAC association was. In 1993, he went to a donor event at the White House with his companion, Ghislaine Maxwell. Around the same time, he also... Hang on a second. Fuck. White, black. Goofy old man. Epstein visited the White House with Clinton while Clinton was president, on 4 known occasions. In 1993, he went to a donor event in the White House with Ghislaine around the same time. He also met with President Clinton's aide, Mark Middleton, on at least 3 occasions at the White House. In 1995, financier Lynn Foster discussed Jeffrey Epstein and currency stabilization with Clinton. God, that's strange. He's that powerful, huh? Epstein, according to his own accounts, was heavily involved in the foreign exchange market and traded large amounts of currency in the unregulated Forex market. In 1995, Epstein also attended a small political fundraiser dinner for Bill Clinton, which included 14 other people, including Ron Perlman. That guy is a motherfucker. That's the guy that gave you NSYNC. Don Johnson, Jimmy Buffett, and dinner organizer Paul Prosperi. From the 90s to the mid-2000s, Epstein often socialized with Donald Trump. Author Michael Wolff wrote that Trump, Epstein, and Tom Barrack. Oh, it's Tom Barrack? I thought it was Stephanopoulos. And Tom Barrack were at the time like a set of nightlife musketeers on the social scene. In a 2017 recording, Epstein stated that he was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. Epstein and Trump socialized both in New York City and Palm Beach, where they both had houses. Who is this Tom Barrack guy? I don't recognize the name. So this fucking guy. Can you imagine being a girl in the nightlife of New York, and this guy is the guy you're going after, huh? Tom Barrack is an American private equity real estate investor and founder and executive chairman of Colony Capital, a publicly traded real estate investment trust. Barrack has for decades been close friends of and fundraiser for President Donald Trump, representing him in television news appearances. He was senior advisor to Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and served as the chairman of his inaugural committee. Barrack's grandparents were Lebanese Christians who immigrated in the 1900s to the U.S. from Zale in what is now Lebanon. Barrack was raised in Culver City, California, where his father was a grocer and his mother was a secretary. In 1969, Barrack earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Southern California, where he participated on their varsity rugby team. He then attended USC Gold School of Law, where he was an editor of Southern California Law Review before receiving a Juris Doctor from the University of San Diego Law School in 1972. That's it. That's his only early life. That's all that matters. In April 2003, New York Magazine reported Epstein hosted a dinner party in his Manhattan residence to honor Bill Clinton, who did not attend, although Trump did attend. According to the Washington Post, one person who knew Epstein and Trump during this time noted that they were tight and they were each other's wingmen. In November 2004, Epstein and Trump friendship ran into trouble when they became embroiled in a bidding war for a $40 million Mansion de Limite. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Look at that motherfucking thing. Oh my God. Let's see. Groundbreaking. 1988. The home was demolished in 2016. The property was subsequently divided in 3 parcels of around 2 acres each, the last of which sold in 2019, amounting to around a $108 million deal. The property of Mansion de Limite, I don't know, was formerly owned by Dun and Bradstreet family member Robert Dunn Douglas. It was sold to tycoon Harrison Williams in 1930. So it existed prior to 1930. Owner Jane Reitzman sold the house on May 1st, 1985 for $10 million to Les Wexner. Oh shit. we got the Wexner connection again. 3 years later on May 27th, 1988, it was sold to Massachusetts nursing home magnate Abraham Abe D. Grossman for $12 million. Grossman built the mansion on the property and named it Mansion de la Limite. On July 30th, 1999, the house was put in the name of his wife, Linda C. Grossman, after Abe Grossman filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Liquidation in 2003. The property went up for auction in 2004. On January 7, 2005, entrepreneur Donald Trump bought the home for $41.35 million, outbidding Jeffrey Epstein. Trump listed the home in early 2006 for $125 million. An employee of Trump Properties in Florida said that Trump had spent $25 million on renovations, while Trump himself claimed to have only spent around $3 million renovating the house. In March 2008, after cycling through several real estate brokers, Trump lowered the asking price to $100 million. On June 16, 2008, Trump sold the home to Russian billionaire Dmitry Robolyov through his County Road Property LLC for $95 million. At the time, it was the most expensive residential property sale to ever occur in the United States. That's very interesting. And the funny thing is like, the history starts with the sale of the house in 1930. Well, what the fuck was it before it was sold in 1930? And so these guys were best buddies who liked to bang the same underage chicks and all that other shit. They were literally known as best friends, and they had a falling out over a bidding war. I mean, isn't that what billionaire business owners do? They like playing real life Monopoly. Why would they have a falling out over that? It's almost like this is when the Trump is going to be president, and the internet is taking off too much. So you have to disassociate yourself from this guy because, you know, some shit's about to go down. Trump won the other month. That month was the last time Epstein and Trump were recorded to have interacted. Wealth. The exact origin of Epstein's wealth is unknown. Leslie Wexner was one source of Epstein's original wealth. An assistant of Epstein who also stated that he got his fortune started through Robert Maxwell. Holy shit. The media mogul father of Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, where does that go now? Because earlier it stated that he met her in 1991, right after her father's death. I mean, this is just... I feel like if I was in court, I could absolutely make a fucking really great argument for why there should at least be a really in-depth investigation into all of this. Look at all of these connections. And apparently it really bothers them that I talk about these things because they fuck with my feed. They shut off the comments. They do everything they can to try to stop this conversation from happening. When Epstein pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting and procuring prostitution, his lawyers stated that he was a billionaire with a net worth of over $1 billion. A number of sources, however, have questioned the extent of Epstein's wealth and his status as a billionaire. According to an article in the New York Times, his fortune may be more illusion than fact. Epstein lost large sums of money in the 2008 financial crisis, and friends and patrons, including retail billionaire Leslie Wexner, deserted him following his pleading guilty to prostitution charges in 2008. New York Magazine claimed that there's scant proof of Epstein's financial bona fides. And Forbes also ran an article entitled, "Why Sex Offender Jeffrey Epstein is Not a Billionaire." They wrote that article. Just, you know, like there's nothing else that Forbes could have talked about that they had to write an article to explain why he's not a billionaire, just in case people were, you know, starting to say this, that, and the other. He's not, and this is why. Forbes said so. Get the fuck out of here. Who believes this shit? Spencer Kuvin, an attorney for 3 of Epstein's alleged victims in the case where Epstein pleaded guilty to sexual activity with minors, stated that, quote, he and his team pursued every possible angle to find out Epstein's net worth, but found that much of his wealth is offshore. An investigation by the Miami Herald of the Swiss Leaks documents indicated that Epstein had multiple financial accounts with millions of dollars in offshore tax havens. In the Paradise Papers, records showed that Epstein in February 1997 became a client of Appleby, a Bermuda-based law firm which specialized in the creation of offshore companies and investment vehicles for the ultra-wealthy. A client profile of Epstein described his job cryptically as the manager of fortune. Federal prosecutors on July 12, 2019 stated in court documents that, based on records from one financial institution, Jeffrey Epstein was extravagantly wealthy and had assets worth at least $500 million and earned more than $10 million a year. The extent of his wealth, however, was not known, since he had not filled out a financial affidavit for his bail application. Why not? According to Bloomberg News, today so little is known about Epstein's current businesses or clients that the only things that can be valued with any certainty are his properties. The Miami Herald, in their investigation of the Paradise Papers and Swiss Leaks documents, concluded that Epstein's wealth is likely spread secretly across the globe. In 2020, Epstein Estate's finances revealed that it had paid out nearly $50 million between June 2020 and December 2020 to move more than 100 women who brought claims to the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund set up in the United States Virgin Islands. By February 2021, the estate was valued at around $240 million, down from estimates of $630 million a year earlier. Yeah, because that's how that works. A beautiful island that has all this underground networks and these mansions and all this other shit was worth $630 million, and then within a year its value dropped more than half. How? Based on what? What would make this private island fucking fortress less valuable? More than half its value, lose more than half of its value in just a year. This prompted the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands, Denise George, to file an emergency motion seeking the immediate asset freeze. She contended that the court filing, which the victims joined, that the state executors had mismanaged the money. Epstein owned the Herbert Strauss House on 9 East 71st Street in Upper Side of Manhattan in New York City. It was originally purchased for $13.2 million in 1989 by Epstein's mentor, Les Wexner, who renovated it completely and then gave it to Epstein. That's the part that, Epstein moved into the mansion in 1995 after Wexner married and moved his wife to Columbus, Ohio to raise their family. He's just given this multi-million-dollar property in a place where the properties go up significantly in value every year. He took full possession of the mansion in 1998 when he paid Wexner $20 million for it. Oh, well, there you go. There it is. The house was valued in 2019 by federal prosecutors at $77 million, while the city assessed the value at $56 million. The mansion is reputedly the largest private residence in Manhattan at 21,000 square feet. Epstein had the largest residence. Hidden under a flight of stairs, there is a lead-lined bathroom filled with its own closed-circuit television screens and a telephone, both concealed in a cabinet under the sink. The house also has its own heated sidewalk to melt away the snow. The entrance hall is lined with rows of individually formed prosthetic eyeballs that were made in England for injured soldiers. That is so fucking creepy. The entranceway has a bunch of fake eyeballs in it just to like let you know you're being watched at all times. Right? That's the only reason why you would do that. The financier's other properties include a residence in Palm Beach, Florida, purchased in 1990, 7 units in an apartment building near the Arc de Triomphe at 22 Avenue Foch in Paris, France, a 7,500-acre ranch named Zorro Ranch near Stanley, New Mexico, purchased in 1993, a private island near St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands called Little St. James, which includes a mansion and guest houses, purchased in 1998, and the neighboring island of Great St. James, purchased in 2016. We don't get to know for how much. And who did he purchase it from? How do you buy a private island like that? Who owns the island? Epstein was building a compound on the latter, including an amphitheater and underwater office and pool, but ran into problems when a stop work order was issued in late 2018. Work continued despite the order. And then who were these companies that did all this? How come we haven't heard interviews from them? Epstein, previous to his final Manhattan home, lived in a spacious townhouse, which was a former Iranian government building that had been taken over by the State Department during the Iranian Revolution. So let's give it to Epstein. At 34 East 69th Street for a rate of $15,000 a month from 1992 to 1995. He also previously owned a mansion outside Columbus, Ohio, near Wexner's home from 1992 to 1998, which he purchased from his mentor. Again, he purchased from his mentor that he was the power of attorney for and made the deal. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. In the position that he was in, he could easily make it look like he purchased the property when in fact he just gave it to himself. Before the Herbert Strauss house was purchased, Wexner purchased in 1998 the adjacent townhouse at 11 East 71st Street. Like in the case of 9 East 71st Street house, Epstein was on deed of the 11 East 71st Street house as a trustee. The townhouse was sold in 1996 to the Comet Trust, which holds part of the assets of the de Gunsberg Bronfman family. Canadian family. It owes its initial fame to Samuel Bronfman, 1889 to 1971, the most influential Canadian Jew of the mid-20th century, who made a fortune in the alcoholic distilled beverage business during American Prohibition, including the sale of liquor through organized crime, through founding Seagram Company, and who later became president of the Canadian Jewish Congress. So this is a criminal. Like, it's a well-known criminal, just like the Kennedys. Well-known criminal whose entire fortune and everything came from illegal activities. Epstein rented offices for his business dealings in the Villard House at 475 Madison Avenue. Stephen Hoffenberg originally set up the offices for Epstein in 1987 when he was consulting for Tower Financial. Epstein used these offices until at least 2003, around the time Michael Wolff saw the financier in his office, which in the past were the offices of Random House. Wolff noted that Epstein's offices were a strange place which did not have a corporate feel at all. Wolff stated that these offices were almost European. It's old-fashioned, unrehabbed in this way. Wolff continued that the trading floor is filled with guys in yarmulkes. Who they are, I have no idea. They're like a throwback, a bunch of guys from the 50s. So here is Jeffrey in this incredibly beautiful office with pieces of art and a view of the courtyard, and he seemed like the most relaxed guy in the world. You want to say, what's going on here? And he gives you that Cheshire smile. Seriously. Epstein rented multiple apartment units for his employees, models, and guests since the 1990s at 301 East 66th Street. The majority of the apartment complex at this address is owned by OSA Properties, which is owned by Jeffrey Epstein's brother Mark, who purchased the complex in the early 90s from Waxner. Again, where Epstein was the power of attorney. Over the years, Epstein has housed different friends at 11, including his ex-girlfriend Ava, who is now married MC2 models John-Luc Brunel, and on occasion, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. He has housed some of his workers, including his pilot, housekeeper, and office work staff in the apartment complex. Epstein has also housed underage girls whom Brunel scouted for his MC2 modeling agency. On August 6, 2012, a model and party promoter associated with MC2, Pedro Gaspar, who lived above another of the modeling agency's locations in Manhattan, died of what some consider a suspicious drug overdose. Jesus. I'm going to skip something. I'm going to skip his philanthropy, because I don't give a fuck, and go to interest in eugenics and transhumanism. According to various sources, beginning in the early 2000s, Epstein developed a strong interest in improving the human race through genetic engineering and artificial intelligence, including using his own sperm from his egg-shaped penis. He addressed the scientific community at various events and occasions and communicated his fascinations with eugenics. It was reported in August 2019 that Epstein had planned to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating up to 20 women at the time, using his New Mexico compound as a baby ranch where mothers would give birth to his offspring. He was an advocate for cryonics and his own idiosyncratic version of transhumanism, and had said that he intended to have his penis and head frozen. Kathleen Hall Jameson, director of the Annenberg Public Policy Center at the University of Pennsylvania, said, "Scientists needed funding for important work. If the funding is for legitimate scientific work, there's nothing wrong with accepting support from a billionaire. However, it would have been wrong for scientists to accept his funding if they were aware that he was planning a eugenics experiment that might draw legitimacy from his association with them." Professor George Church also publicly apologized for meeting Epstein after his 13-month sentence, saying, "There should have been more conversations about, should we be doing this? Should we be helping this guy?" There was a lot of nerd tunnel vision, he said. Tomorrow we'll have to do his death, because shit doesn't make any sense. So, of course, comments have been shut off. Makes you wonder why, I guess. To me, this is all just so obvious. I really don't know. Like, I'm reading you what the Israel-controlled Wikipedia wants you to know. You know, I'm giving you the narrative that we're supposed to know. It's not some crazy conspiracy. It's what they want us to know. How do you not, like, where does your disconnect come from? Anyway, go get your free download, www.the-bilderberg, bilderberg-group.com. It's free. I ask you how much you want to pay. You can put $0, and it's free. We just ask that you share it with someone. Or you can donate, which we really appreciate, and we have appreciated. I'm going to leave you with a link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important film ever made, and it explains literally all this and how they control everything using Hollywood to manipulate us. And I'm going to leave you with 3 links to 3 of our songs, 3 of our music videos on Facebook: Donald Trump Hates America, COVID Sauce, and Sleight of Hand Job. Go check this shit out. Go share it. Like, share, and sub this. Like, share, and sub those videos. Just help. Do something. Realize we are up against a well-oiled machine that hates us, that calls us Goyim, and believes that each one of them should have 2,800 Goyim slaves, Gentile slaves. Which is what it's actually, it takes 2,800 of us to facilitate each one of their lives so they can live freely. Free housing, free healthcare, free money, Just free money itself. Free education, free everything. We don't get that. They do. So go check that shit out. Go help out. And we'll finish this conversation tomorrow, I guess. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. Have yourself a great day. And most importantly, look, on a video that has 9 likes and 14 watchers, right? Most importantly, you pedophiles, kill yourself.